A SOUQ morning to you and yours. Welcome to SOUQ News Television on this lovely Wednesday morning. I am Hans Mbah. This is SOUQ Business Landscape, where we take a look at business headlines from across the world. I will allow you to look at the ones that concern you, the ones that concern us. And when we do this, we'll engage and talk about it on YouTube, across all social media, and share our thoughts. We'll take a break when we return from our coffee, cups of coffee, tea, and all that is soothing as we enter into this. Let's take a break and return. Welcome back. It's SOUQ Business Landscape. We'll jump right on to our first publication of the day. Business Day. Interest rate hike eyes inflation, naira stability. Interest rate hike eyes inflation, as well as there's naira stability. So Cardoso says money supply has grown by 35 trillion naira in 8 years, and it's something worthy of celebration. This you can read in full on page 35. Flour mills to buy out minority shareholders after regulatory approval. Flour mills to buy out minority shareholders after regulatory approval. Catch this one on page 35. Jobless rate rises on multinationals exits. Jobless rates rises on multinationals exits, factory closures. Page 34 with this one, all the gist on factory closures on this news. Entrepreneurship critical to economic resilience, crisis prevention. So it says entrepreneurship is critical to economic resilience, crisis prevention. All this on page 4. Let us take a short coffee break and return in a few seconds as we continue. Stay here, please. Welcome back. I finished my coffee real quick, so I had to go for a second cup. I apologize. Business Daily Kenya, that's where we are. MP's top list of 64 billion shillings SACCO loan defaulters. Wow. MP's top list for 64 billion shillings SACCO loan defaulters. This is quite a story that we've shed some light on this past few past week, where loans, they're chasing loan defaulters all across board. Here, the MP's cooperative has one of the highest default rates they report among the top SACCOs, because with smaller ones like the ACK, Uthiru Parish Cooperative Society, this one is a non-performing ratio one at 97.92%, with Gikomba market-based B-Smart also on the high end of 88%. There's another church-focused SACCO loan as well at 71.8%. So all these defaulters, they have listed finally that they're going to be going at them. Ruto backs Starlink rivalry with Safaricom. This is causing a lot of ruckus, borderline hullabaloo. Ruto is still always in that hot cocoa, like my coffee is. So Ruto is backing Starlink Safaricom. So he has backed Elon Musk Starlink entry that they're just coming into Kenya, and he backs it strongly amidst the petition from homegrown, home-based Safaricom to reconsider the award of licenses to satellite internet providers. Now, Ruto told the US-Kenya Business and Investment Roundtable that the entrance of Starlink is in line with his government's policy of deepening internet penetration into the country. You know how it is. You can't fight the government, no matter how that happens. So he had to make this presentation at a very place that's where people can listen and take them quite seriously. And he has the right reasons for it. Penetration of internet into all nooks and crannies of Kenya. Mobile gaming business presents one of the most accessible entry points for African youth. This is a quote that is coming on the basis of the amazing, should I say, income now that mobile gaming is bringing, and on this article it's been touted as quite a huge one, and that continues. Treasury rules out blanket tax deal for Adani. Treasury rules out blanket tax deal for Adani. The Treasury has ruled out a blanket tax exemption for India's Adani under its proposal to manage the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA as it's popularly called. The state opened window for rival bids, so they want rivals to come through and bid for this. SMEP joins top-tier microbanks after majority stake sale. SMEP, as they call it, SMEP joins top-tier microbanks after majority stake sale. The microbank says the acquisition helped unlock resources and expertise which have served to expand the lender's reach. They say this expansion of the lender's reach comes, and this acquisition brought several advantages, which includes access to Hope international expertise as well as resources, which will bolster SMEAP Microfinance Bank's capabilities to expand its reach. And it's something that they're doing currently thanks to the SME's support. We segue from Business Daily in Kenya onto Business Day South Africa. This one caught my eye and it had to come first. Hyprop shows its smarts with Nigerian sale. And now Hyprop Investments, owners of a whole long line and slew of shopping centers across the whole of Africa, said on Monday it completed a deal to sell its interest rates in Ikeja City Mall, Nigeria. Now, they're saying that this is a very shrewd deal, safeguarding the group's balance sheets, which is why they say this is happening. Safeguard their balance sheets and protecting their profitability as regards South Africa assets. This also is something that's going on with fellow property baron Attack, also, which he has sold his stake in the properties in the same sub-Saharan Africa. Is there something that someone isn't telling someone? Who knows? Funds are bullish on reforms in South Africa. Funds are bullish on reforms in South Africa. So a survey on behalf of the Bank of America, which was conducted by the research firm, popular research firm Ipsos, has found a record number of fund managers in South Africa's government of national unity to implement meaningful reforms, in quotes. Perhaps the reforms are not meaningful, which is why that's the quote. And they could see that the local markets deliver returns in excess of 10% over the next 12 months. This sounds like a prayer. Some say it's a wish, but we see how that plays out. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Only 5% of adults think climate is a priority. 5%, a measly 5% think climate is a priority. A Presidential Climate Commission survey says that joblessness, crime, and the cost of living ranks higher despite climate change likely impacts on these issues. It's amazing. Good or bad, it is amazing. Amplats crashes out of the JSE's top 40 index. Amplats crashes out of the JSE's top 40 index. World's biggest platinum producer has lost nearly 100 billion rands in value since the beginning of 2024. Right? Anglo American Platinum, full name called shortened to Amplats, they have dropped out of the JSE top 40 index this past Friday, and it's reflecting on a 35.5% drop in the share price since the beginning of the year. Now, as this is happening, the platinum group metal miners continue to fall from favor. Not looking good for Amplats. SA perspective on dollar dominance and its global ripple effects. This article sheds some light on SA's perspective on dollar dominance and its global ripple effects. South Africa's financial markets are well developed, but there's a concern about foreign holdings and capital outflows. These are things collectively that are being worried about. The dollar has dominated the global financial system for decades, especially since the collapse of the Bretton, of course, as far back as the Bretton Woods Woods system since 1971. When the US detached the dollar from gold, it introduced a new era of fiat currencies, providing the US with unprecedented monetary flexibility. This change also introduced global volatility, which has affected South Africa's monetary policy, its long-term investment strategies, as well as its economic stability too. Gold, a boost for sales despite falling outputs. Gold, a boost for sales despite falling output. So amidst decreasing production, income in July, a couple of months ago, more than doubled from the previous year of 2023. Now, elevated gold prices have been a saving grace for South Africa's mining sector in more recent months, which eventually is turning out to drive up big increases in mineral sales, and it's offsetting the steady decline in South Africa's gold production. And it's something that has to be, they have to do something about it. They have to keep their eye on that one, a close eye on that one, so things don't dissipate. Newspapers bulwark of Afrikaans culture. It's one to look out for. Also on Business Day South Africa, catch that full gist on page 5. BRICS. BRICS is always been on the news, and it's attractive when it is. BRICS shape air and defense display. So 8 years ago, the transnational industrial collaboration that was touted as one of the primary benefits of BRICS partnership was still kind of like a kite flying exercise. But now times have changed, and some of those kites are now real-life military jets. Apart from its mention in passing by some head of states and governments over these years, this past 8 years, the industrial sale of initiative appeared to have lain fallow since it was launched in 2009. But now, it's massive, it's big, it's huge. BRICS, well done. We head to Asia, Bangladesh to be precise. Business Post is talking about a few things. RMG industry back on track as demands are met. RMG industry back on track as demands are met. Garment factory owners have agreed to meet the 18 demands put forward by workers, a whopping 18. And bringing an end to the ongoing instability within the ready-made garments industry. 18 is a long one, but they are being touted to be considerate and are considered in this 18 demands they have made, which normal operations are expected to resume from Wednesday after these demands have been met. Congratulations to them, and they'll pick up where things have left off. IMF tech support sought for banking sector reforms. IMF tech support sought for banking sector reforms. Bangladesh has requested technical assistance from the International Monetary Fund to address key areas of concern, including banking sector reforms, including money laundering control, including tax reforms. All this, the finance advisor, Dr. Ahmed, put out on Tuesday yesterday, and I quote, he said, "We sought technical assistance for banking sector reforms, tackling money laundering, and implementing tax reforms." End of quotes. He had to put this out there so they don't come for him. As usual. Revenue collection shows 11% growth. Revenue collection shows 11% growth. The National Board of Revenue is struggling so very hard to bring momentum in tax collection by doing a few things, right? One of which is restructuring the state body and mending all the cracks in tax evasion, something that is extremely difficult, but they have to let you know something is being done. Tax evasion is key, and they have said, and we could quote them, that those loopholes and cracks are being covered. Let's hope. BB further hikes policy rates to 9.5%. BB, of course, Bangladesh Bank, the equivalent of our central bank, further hikes policy rates to 9.5%. So the Bangladesh Bank has increased the policy interest rate to 9.5% from the existing 9% in a bid to tackle inflation. That's not much of a, should I say, increase, but hey. So it said this on Tuesday. The regulatory issued a circular in this regard, mentioning that the new rates will come into effect from today. India firms lose out on textbook deal. Indian firms lose out on textbook deals. The Advisory Committee on Public Procurement has rejected 2 Indian firms that were initially selected to print primary school textbooks for the 2025 academic year. The companies had been assigned 18 lots of textbook. To get that full story why they were turned down, catch it on page 26. Dhaka, Delhi agree to advance bilateral ties. Dhaka and Delhi, 2 of the largest cities in India, agreed to advance bilateral ties. Foreign Affairs Advisor Hussain, as well as Indian External Affairs Minister Jay Shankar, they have held a meeting on the sidelines of the 79th United Nations General Assembly session in New York. This was on Monday, 2 days ago. And on the sidelines, because this didn't happen in the meeting, so they caught them on the sidelines during break and they were talking about this. Incidentally, this made the news before the General Assembly session. So the conversation is focused on both countries' bilateral ties, and the Dhaka-Delhi bilateral relations felt a strain, that's been lingering after former Prime Minister Hasina resigned and fled to India in the face of a student people movement sometime last month. So that the ties have been suffering until the new man stepped in and they had this conversation. Hope for the best. BB must provide liquidity support to save troubled banks. This is coming from National Bank Limited, Abdul Minto. He says Bangladesh Bank must provide liquidity support to save troubled bank. So he's the newly installed National Bank Limited chairman, and he says, I quote, without instant liquidity support, there is no way to regain the trust of depositors in the banks where the boards have been restructured. No way, he says. The loan guarantee from the central bank is not enough, as other banks also know that financial health of these banks are paramount. He said that merely restructuring the board of directors at these banks after dissolving the previous ones will not be enough to resolve the crisis in their banking sector. And he spoke this quite passionately, and he's garnering support and votes on this. Polythene bags banned in markets from November 1st. Wow, sounds kind of like Nigeria here, where we did same with the... Anyway, polythene and polypropylene bags will be banned in all supermarkets from October 1st, and in all open markets as well, not just supermarkets, because more of these are used in open markets than supermarkets. All this for supermarkets, October 1st, from open markets, November 1st. So Rizwana Hassan, the advisor to the Ministry of Environment, mentioned this yesterday and insists that people should take note and they would be enforced. It's still SOUQ Business Landscape. Remember, as we are here together, you can keep it coming, the engagements on hashtag SBL. We're on to business standard in India. INFI GST notices relief in sight. Two options on the table. That's their finance ministry may declare notices null and void or reduce tax liabilities. Feature phone firms may red flag DOT mandates. Feature phones may red flag DOT mandates. Catch that one on page 3 as it speaks to you. Sensex scales 85K and Nifty tops 26K, then retreats. It's a lot of back and forth on the stock exchange. If you take a look here, you'll see Sensex and Nifty 50. There's data letting you know how they're playing out. Gold outshines equities in a falling rates environment, as well as mixed bag debuts for trio of new listings. Catch this on the front page. On page 6, about economy and public affairs, consensus eludes GOM on realty GST. Consensus eludes GOM on realty GST. A group of ministers, the meeting held in GOA could not reach consensus on most proposals regarding the goods and services tax for the real estate sector, and they deferred the proposal to exempt GST on long-term leases granted to the tourism sector. Byju's in default of $1.5 billion loan, affirms Delaware SC. Byju's in default of $1.5 billion loan, affirms Delaware. So they allow U.S. lenders to take control of the firm's American assets, primarily Bayju Alpha. Incidentally, last week we were talking about the successes of Byju, and I don't know how this is. Well, we'll see that they're taking over, Delaware taking over the firm's American assets due to this misnomer. Swiggy IPO gets SEBI nod, November launch likely. Swiggy IPO gets SEBI nod, November launch likely. So food delivery major Swiggy has been given the go-ahead right, by the Securities and Exchange Board of India, popularly called SEBI. I know another SEBI, but hey. They're launching their much anticipated initial public offering, according to people in the know. The company is backed by major investors such as Prosus, SoftBank, and Accel, and they are valued at $9.3 billion as at August last year. Still in India, we will take a look at page 6, India, globally known as the best place to manufacture. That seems to be, should I say, questionable, right? Because majority know that the best place to manufacture is China, right? But India, well, it's a quote, so it's passable. The Commerce Minister Goyal is saying that India globally is known as the best place to manufacture. So he says this, that there's a big boost in manufacturing, and he's going ahead that the government is committed to reducing the compliance burden. So I just said, come and manufacture in India. Not that it's the best place to manufacture. On page 2, all competitors sourcing in India will be at the same level of competition. All competitors sourcing in India will be at the same level. This also, chairman of Ooredoo Group is quoted here, Nilesh Ved. Lastly, should I say one more headline? 13 candidates in fray for PNB top job. 13 candidates in fray for PNB top job. So at least 13 candidates are in the race for the position of Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Punjab National Bank. PNB is one of the biggest banks in India, by the way. And it's the second largest public sector bank, the first being one of the a private one. Among them are 2 EDs. Among the 13 candidates are 2 executive directors, one from the Bank of Baroda and another from the Union Bank of India. So we will move away now onto our last publication for the morning, Financial Times. So we're looking at the UK and the US concurrently. Okay. China unleashes aggressive stimulus blitz in battle to hit 5% growth target. China unleashes aggressive stimulus blitz in battle to hit 5% growth target. We're talking about interest rate cuts. We're talking about funding to boost markets, as well as support for the property sector, and the stock is rising 4.3%. All right. Warlord Prigozhin secretly used HSBC and JP Morgan for Wagner payments. Warlord Prigozhin secretly used HSBC and JP Morgan for Wagner payments. This is a strong accusation, and catch the full story on the front page as it continues on page 3. Labour pledges to tackle crisis for women in prison. Labour pledges to tackle crisis for women in prison. Starmer vows to fix Britain. Starmer vows to fix Britain. Still on the front page of that one. Uber is on collision course with Amazon. The fight continues. Uber is doing pretty well across the world, as well as Amazon. But this collision course, you want to know about it, catch it on page 3 of the publication. The EU's over-regulation challenge is still on. LVMH Louis Vuitton Bannon reporters put Arnault in spotlights. Arnault is in the spotlights. Akzo Nobel axes jobs. The cutting off jobs, and this Akzo is the Dutch paid producer producer of paint that owns Dulux, the popular and expensive Dulux. And they will cut 20,000 posts, including a number in the head office by the end of next year as it faces pressure to slash costs and keep up with its rival. This comes at no surprise because looking at what Dulux is costing in the market, there are a lot of newbies in the market that are being patronized, and it's something that is causing them to cut jobs. Exchange groups raided. So here they're referring to Nasdaq and the Deutsche Börse. They have been raided by EU officials and are probing whether the exchange groups may have been involved in any antitrust violations that's related to financial derivatives. This is a show on catch it on page 8. You have more things to show on that one. U.S. climate law defended. So we're talking Donald Trump's plan to gut, the way they put it, Donald Trump's plan to gut the Biden administration sweeping climate legislation would be like stabbing ourselves and would hand China the advantage, says U.S. Energy Secretary. He says, of course, when you hear a comment like that, you know where he's going to and what he's referring to. Calvin Klein accused. So in Beijing, Calvin Klein has been accused of boycotting cotton from Xinjiang, the Xinjiang region, which is where most of their cotton comes from, and is threatening for the first time to put a U.S. group with big interests on Chinese soil. This is a huge one. This is a fight that's I don't know if there shall be an end to it. Quickly, we'll wrap things up with Gulf Times in Qatar. Ooredoo Group secures 2 billion reals in landmark financing deal to accelerate data center expansion. So Ooredoo Group announced on Tuesday, just yesterday here, a landmark 2 billion reals financing deal to accelerate the growth of its data center and AI business. AI huge these days, especially with organizations. And all this will enable a significant expansion of capacity and the modernization of its data centers. The financing deal was signed with QNB, Qatar National Bank, Doha Bank, and Masraf AI Ryan. A good deal, a good combination of bigwigs. QIB receives Straight-Through Processing Excellence Award. The Qatar Islamic Bank received the annual Straight-Through Processing Excellence Award from Citibank for outstanding performance in STP and delivery of commercial and treasury payments. The award was handed over at a meeting held at QIB head office and was attended by senior officials from QIB and Citibank Group. Congratulations on that one. China's central bank unveils most aggressive stimulus since the pandemic. Are we still talking about the pandemic? The broader than expected package offering more funding and interest rate cuts marks the latest attempts by policymakers to restore confidence in the world's second largest economy after a slew of disappointing data has been raised, and this concerns of a prolonged structural slowdown. But analysts are questioning how productive the People's Bank of China's liquidity injections will be, given extremely weak credit demand from business and consumers. And they noted that there's an absence of any policy that's aimed at supporting real economic activity, and they're not having none of it. Sheikh Mohammed chairs inaugural session of Qatar SOUQ Joint Committee for Economic, Commercial, and Technical Cooperation. So between the two countries, Sheikh Mohammed underscores the committee's significance as a platform for them both to explore opportunities for cooperation between SOUQ and Qatar. And we're talking amongst a wide range of economic, commercial, technical, and business sectors. We're talking things that include trade, investments, transport, industry, education, science, agriculture, across board basically, and especially food security and technology, youth, sports, culture, mining, and many other areas. He further stated that the Czech Republic is a vital partner of Qatar. Right? Still on the news, remember we're still looking at Gulf Times. QIIB successfully issues $300 million Tier 1 capital sukuk. So QIIB announced that the successful issuance of this amount for sukuk is aimed at strengthening its position and benefiting from opportunities that the global sukuk market presents. Let us close a chapter today on the show, SOUQ Business Landscape, on SOUQ News Television. My name is Hans Mbah. Do engage with us on social media, #SBL. Let's talk about this some more as your morning gets better. Thanks for staying here.